All right, welcome back. Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about the masculine and feminine energies, characteristics, whatever you want to call it, as they show up in life and design. And I want to show you and get us all to reflect on how they show up in life and in nature so that it makes sense when you start to think about how it translates into physical space and how we look at design matters, lighting, texture, structure, etc. So let's dive right in. This is also a sensitive topic in some ways. So I'm going to do my best to be sensitive to the topic at hand. There are distinctions between the male and female and the masculine and feminine. And I want to be clear that we're not talking about this in terms of anything traditional or conservative or, gender boxes and roles. That is not what we are talking about today. We are talking about how it shows up in nature, the polarity of balance in nature, that nature so eloquently balances itself out by using these masculine and feminine energies to create, sustain, and grow itself, which is beautiful and wonderful. So that's the perspective and the lens with which we are using this terminology is the polarity, both understood from a nature sense and also a spiritual sense. And we will also be talking specifically here and there about female and male aspects as they show up in nature. But I want to be clear, as human beings, we all have masculine and feminine energies within all of us. It's a balance within ourselves, it's a balance out there, and it's a balance in our space. So it's not 100% this or 100% that. It's all about balance. And how do we want to execute and strategize that balance so that we have successful space? So that's the come from, and that is the lens and the framework with which we're going to be talking about this today, just to be clear. So let's talk about quote unquote soft power and design. And when I'm talking about soft power and design, I'm talking about feminine energy, feminine characteristics, which is often classified as soft because of how it shows up in nature, because of how it shows up in space, and because of how it makes us feel, tends to make us feel in space. So soft power and design, and it is powerful. Let's be clear about that. When we look at womb space, literal female anatomy. We look at what that space can do physically, how strong it is. People with womb space who push out babies. That is extremely powerful. That is extremely powerful from a creation moment. If you're spiritual, it can be powerful spiritually. But certainly just in a literal physical sense, that is a powerful, powerful piece of anatomy that many of us have. It's beautiful. Another example would be like a soft landing pad or a parachute. Certainly comes in more than handy if you are flying around in the air and you need a way to safely get to land. It can be a life saving, and that is also extremely powerful to consider. And this following one is a bit morbid, but I want to really demonstrate the point here. Water will slip right over your hand when you're washing your hands or your face. But if let's say, if it could crush you if you're falling into it from high above. Right? Like if you were in the air and you had no parachute and you're falling, you fall to land, fall to sea, they're both going to crush a person or, whatever might be falling. Sorry for that morbid example. I'm really just trying to demonstrate a point. So hopefully you never find yourself in that type of, position, or if you do, you have a good parachute. I'm not exactly into that myself. And actually I'm sweating thinking about it because it's like, oh, it's so scary. Not interested in parachuting myself, but I think it's cool if you're into that. Just please be safe, right? Whether you're flying above air or water, if you're up at a certain distance above water, if you're close to it, you can dive right in. But if you're far enough away, it'll still crush you, like as if you were falling to land. So water can be soft, can be extremely crushing depending on distance. and speed. Apologies again for the morbid example, but it's important to really demonstrate this. So thank you for your patience. It's a marathon, not the sprint. It's the gentle but firm enough space to hold space and form. You might actually, so here's a really good example of that too. Mattress, right? The mattress on your bed. It, for about a third of your life, sustains your body in place while you powerfully rest so you can do all the stuff you want to accomplish in life. Would not be possible without a gentle and firm space to hold your physical body. Okay, let's talk a little bit about nature. Nature is a balance. Talk about that polarity, that balance. We both have male and female, or masculine and feminine energies in all of us, both literally female and male components, right? Because we're how we are created, literally sperm and egg. But also, and most importantly, from my perspective for this video, the masculine, feminine polarity characteristics, your energy, how are you balanced, etc. We talk about nature. The feminine might be, or the feminine leading aspect might be the bloom, and the masculine leading element might be the stem. Water, we're talking about just elements in general, not the specifics around them, but just kind of like their outward facing characteristics. Water versus fire. Earth and moon versus sun. And that one's a really important characteristic too to draw, because the earth and moon are both receptive of the energy, the light and the sun that are the energy, the warmth, the heat from the sun. And our life would not exist without the sun and its rays. So incredibly important balance. And the way that life is created and sustained and grown. It's beautiful, beautiful thing. So how this applies specifically to space. So first of all, let's take a moment to really just kind of ground in what we went over, right? These are just a few examples, and there are so many more. So I don't want us to get kind of inundated and overwhelmed with what this could look like. I just want us to draw a couple comparisons so we can start to see how balance works, because what we're really focused on is balance and how we want to balance, because different spaces call for different things. Totally. Your bedroom needs a completely different vibe than your kitchen or your workspace, which is, why, like, for example, if you're going to have combo spaces, those kind of need to be carefully constructed and conceptualized so that you don't feel burnt out or sluggish. Those are things. Those are real things that happen, and we want to avoid them. So let's see, balance of masculine, feminine, restful space. Yes. So for restful spaces, we want to lean into the feminine. But when it also functions as a workspace, it needs to have enough masculine energy to balance out. And so that might be changes in the space, might be changes in your lighting that happens when you're switching gears. It might be that you have some feminine characteristics in your furnishings, but that you have some masculine energy in some of your other items in your space and your structural items. So for example, feminine examples in space: curved structures, soft lighting, soft fabrics. Masculine examples in space could be more corners, edges, rectangles, definitely more angular, okay? Pointed lighting, probably more lighting, and emphasis on hard materials. And when you have fabrics, more textured, more kind of gritty, okay? So those are some examples and some contrasts with how those two characteristics show up in space. And you can see how they can present a completely different vibe, right? So like, for example, let's talk about if you tried to have a masculine and too much masculine in your bedroom, for example. It's rough, man. Let me just tell you. So let's talk about, first of all, you might have some rough fabric on some of your, like maybe your bedspread or your headboard or something. and your face hits it once and you're like, oh God, that feels terrible to just wake up to that and just rub against it. It's like, oh no, 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 no. That is not relaxing at all, right? Um, but it might be okay if you have a bunch of pillows stacked on top of it. Okay. And some people like that textured look, right? So if you're gonna have it, make sure it's working for you. It's all about balance, right? Um, you might also find that you have too many edges in your space. So like let's say you wake up, you're a little groggy and you bang your knee or your thigh on your bedside table. Oh, that did not feel good. That's and it's not to say that you shouldn't have any corners or edges in your bedroom space. And sometimes you're that's what you have. That's what you have. But if you do, you want to make sure things are properly spaced. That if you do tend to wake up groggy in the morning, that your bedside table isn't placed in such a way that's going to bump into you and those kinds of things. So you can manage these kinds of things in your space depending on what your needs are, what you have available in your space and your resources, and how you layer things, right? So like I said, if you have that really textured fabric in your bedroom, that might be fine if you've got a lot of pillows in front of it. Cool. You might have that edgy piece of furniture in there. That might be fine if it's distanced far enough away, or if it has some curves built into something that is unlikely to present some discomfort for you as you expand out of your space and beginning the day. So those are just a few examples. And then let's talk about when a space is over feminized. Also not good. You could be in your office and thinking, I'm going to have this like really cool feminine vibe in my office. And, that's all well and good, but you could also go overboard with that and have the lighting way too low to the point where you need to like, snap, wake up. And to the point where you have some furnishings in there that are so comfortable. You're like, oh, I want to work over here for that. I'm going to sit on like my really soft round couch or whatever. And you're falling asleep or feeling groggy as you're writing your emails. Oh, take a nap. And naps are not bad. Okay. Naps are great when you like really want to take them. But, if you find yourself feeling sluggish or just too tired in your space because it's designed in a feminine way like that, you see how that's not helpful either. You need balance. You need balance and all kinds of space. And there's so many ways to do that. And that's one of the reasons why design can be so fun. There isn't just one answer to any of these problems or questions. It's always an adventure trying to figure out what's going to work for people. And by the way, it's not that there's a prescribed way to do exactly, a perfect balance of like 65% feminine, 35% masculine to create this. It doesn't work that way specifically. It's really like, what are the general concepts of balance and polarity in the masculine and feminine? And then also, what is going to work for this individual and their clients and their colleagues? Because everyone's just a little bit different with that, right? You might find that a low lit space, a space that might be, too low lit for most people is a little bit better for you, right? As long as it's not too low. That might especially apply to you if you're like neurodivergent, and too harsh of a lighting is just like a no, right? So we're all just a little bit different, and it's always an exploration. And so with that, I'm going to leave you with my last quote, which is probably the most important slide of this entire presentation, because it kind of goes into what I haven't really talked about or just started to talk about. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, why is this so important? I've just spent the last several minutes talking to you about masculine and feminine energies and nature and space. We even talked about some morbid, kind of scary examples. And we went all into that. We talked about all these different changes and design concepts you could implement to space that help with this, help with that. Then you've got individual preference and neurodivergence possibly and other things. But one thing we can always do is simplify. And what I want to urge you to do as you're considering all those other topics, because yes, they're important, what feels good to you? if you listen to your body and you listen to yourself and you follow what makes you feel good, what comes up. And sometimes it literally is as simple as what is making me feel good. And so whenever you feel lost or like the information is a little bit too much out of your wheelhouse, or maybe you want to work with someone like me, but you can't afford it yet, or this, that, and the other, focus on what makes you feel good. Sometimes it really is that simple. And simple is profound. It really is. So let's weigh all of the technical design jargon, right? All the technical design information that I just shared with you, not jargon, but the points with what makes you feel good, and what do you feel drawn to when you consider design. Yeah. So with that, I want to thank you for stopping by today. I hope that was helpful. And I'm definitely open to answer any questions, both about masculine and feminine polarity, because that's something that is definitely within my wheelhouse. And we just kind of touched upon some topics there. And also, if you're specifically interested in how that shows up in space and what you should kind of consider in different types of spaces, I can help you out there too. Because again, your kitchen requires a different balance than your bedroom. Just like your bedroom requires a different balance than your workspace, your bathroom, etc. So all things to consider, and then have some fun with it. Follow what makes you feel good. So, all right. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time. Thanks.